Get that right there and just wait for a couple of people to get on. All right, I'm gonna get this rocking and rolling while you jump on there, guys. I've got a couple of you guys on there already that I already know. Steve Mack here. Who we got there? Oh, wow, that's all right. This is all right. Andy Wall straight on there, buddy. I'm glad you're on there, man. And this is pointed to you and your mates that you were talking about the other day and anyone else. Johnny Cav, you're not in the US, bro. The whole point of this today for me is to get my message across you guys in the US, Canada, wherever you guys are watching, because the interest I've had lately has been absolutely mind-blowing. It's been amazing because this is what it's all about for me. It's about getting my message out there and being able to help you guys. It's anywhere, like I say, growing up as a young bloke in Oz, but seeing how much this can resonate with you guys, like I say, over there in the US or in Canada, even the UK, you guys have been jumping on. It's fantastic. And it seriously does blow my mind. And I'm so grateful to even be able to talking to you now about this. Now, I'm going to go into this here now and I'm going to tell a little bit about my story for you guys that don't know about my story. And where I've come from and where I'm going, really. And that's the important part too, is about where I'm going, where I'm at now and where I'm going, because that's huge. I can talk about all my problems from my past. Everyone loves talking about their problems. But I just want to show you how, we'll talk to you about how I've been able to move on from that. Using a certain process, certain steps, but also my own life experience to go off the lessons I've learned and to not fall back into that same way of dealing with situations and use these new tools to move forward. I'm loving the love hearts coming up here. Come on, guys, not too much love. Only just begun. But anyway, I'll go back. I grew up in a small country town, and like I say, a lot of you guys on here now know this, and actually a few of you guys don't, this is cool. And I was always good at my sport. I was always involved with all my friends through the school. That's what I used to love. I used to love doing that, but I was very angry all the time. And growing up as a kid, and like I say, as a teenager and everything, I was always angry, always like getting into little fights and all that. And all my friends, that's what I was known as. I was like the angry little man. And that carried through my sport and actually held me back from a lot of stuff. And that built up, but I just thought I was born that way. And that was something I kept telling myself for years and years. I actually thought that's how I was, and I just accepted it. And that made a huge difference in how I dealt with certain situations growing up, but moving away from my teenage years into my 20s and even 30s. And that's where all that came from. And like I say, back to my teenage years, because I feel this is important, because I grew up in a pretty cool family. It was there were some hard times and that, and my mum and dad didn't get along all the time, and I reacted certain ways to a lot of stuff went on there, but I didn't think it made a difference. I was how I was. I accepted that. And like I say, my sport was huge for me now that I look at it. And I know a lot of you guys that are on there now, and this is the same. You grow up in a group of friends and you play the sports, and I used to love that. But I always used to be held back because I used to have that temper. I used to have that anger, and I used to have that frustration. And it was more at myself because I couldn't understand why I deal with certain things the way I did. And it held me back. And like I say, I look back now, and I feel this is important talking to you guys now to see where all this evolved from, because it leads into how I reacted to everything right up until this day. Oh, thanks for all the likes, guys. I've got to keep the live stream here. I've got to look to the side of the screen. So if I'm looking away from you, that's it. I'll get to a lot of the questions very soon. But yeah, like I say, how I dealt with a lot of these situations, from then I accepted it. And everyone around me instilled that belief in me. Like I say, I'm angry, this is how, and it held me back from so much things. I actually believe I was pretty talented in a lot of these things, but I never reached my full potential. And then what happened is, being in a local town, a small town, sporting club, I was really good, and I was like playing first by the time I was like 17. I was still in my juniors really, but I was playing first. I had this really fiery attitude, and I'd go, but everyone around me in that scene, they always instilled that belief in me as well. But then it was the party scene for me. You get introduced in a small town to all these guys that are older than you. You have a beer after the game, you have 2 beers after the game, and it was fun, don't get me wrong. The parties were amazing, and I look back at that now and there's some amazing times, but that's where it all started for me in terms of leading the way I did into my 20s down the path where I got stuck. I got stuck in this, looking for that first feeling of when I first used to go out and have fun with all these guys who were above me. I thought that's how it was, but like I say, the club scene, the pub scene, and that's what I did over and over. But then you tie all that stuff in with what I touched on first about my anger, about how I thought I was born that way. And that was instilled in me further by all these people I had around me in the clubs. And it's of no fault of theirs, because that's how I was. That's how I react to certain situations. That's how I went about everything. I got to a certain point, especially, like I say, I touch on my sport again. If there was a fight or something, I was the first one in there. I was the angry little one. That's how I was. That's how I dealt with it. And that was more me being uncomfortable and reactive, because I didn't know any other way. I didn't know how to approach a certain situation. I didn't know how to talk to someone. I didn't know how to communicate to anyone. And this is on and off the sporting field. I just like using that analogy because I've seen all the names that are on here. You're all very sporting background, and I know this resonates with you guys. But like I say, what this led to for me, when something came up, it was always, how can I put this? If I was uncomfortable, instead of backing down, I'd like be loud. I would be that angry person. I'd be that, fit into that, what would you say, that persona of the people that were around me expected every time. And with the alcohol, with the drugs, that got exaggerated so much. But I believe this. So every time I got into trouble, every time I got into fight, every time I was like locked up by the police, and yes, I got locked up a lot. I've been through some crazy shit, and it's not me being proud of it. I think it's just really important as a piece in my story to show you how I've moved forward from that. But when I got into trouble all the time, I still didn't learn my lesson. I'd react the same way. I'd get into trouble, I'd get into a fight, I'd mouth off. And that was always my way of reacting to it all. And this kept going on and on and on. But what happened was, as I grew into my late 20s, and this is huge for me because I look back on it, and I started to learn the lesson. I only started to, but it was when I was at my lowest. It's when I was like in that cell on a Saturday morning, walking out, just so embarrassed and so ashamed of what I'd done the night before. And it was something silly, just like by opening my mouth. But I was so low and in so much pain, what I'd do then, I'd work away from it. I'd have a week away from it. I'd have 2 weeks away from it. I'd even lock myself away from my friends. A lot of people didn't see this that was going inside because I kept all this in to me. I put on this face to everyone, I'm okay, I'm happy, yes, yes, yes. But I'd do that over time. Then it'd be 2 months, but 3 months. But then I'd go back. I've been a good boy. I'm going to go back and party. I'll go harder because I've been really good. I can handle this better. So what happened next time? Same situation to come up. I get into more trouble. I was angrier. I'd get into more fights. I upset more people. So in turn, what had happened? I was more down on myself. I'd get angry with myself. And that's where all the anger was. It was within me. And that's with that building up over time, there was always going to be times where that let out and exploded, and that's what it was. And I was always looking for ways to get away from that. I was always looking for something that had helped me escape from realistically what was going on inside my head. And it was as simple as that. And like I say, I look back on it now and it was as simple as that. But at the time, when you've got all this shit going on and you don't know where you're going, you don't know how to deal with things, that's what happens. It implodes. And that was for me. So what happened was, as I got later on and I got into more trouble, I'd go to court, I'd get motivated in pain over and over again. And there was certain times and certain situations where it was just embarrassing. It was embarrassing for me, embarrassing for my friends. And the way I dealt with it, I'd go and hide and like make sure everything was all right. But one thing I found later in my 20s, and this is like huge, and I'd go back to the things that I used to enjoy as a kid, like I say, my sport. But going away was a big thing. Going away, like I love my fishing, my camping, spending time with my family or without even. I remember the times as a kid, and that's what I always connected with. And it's really important when you think of these things that you enjoy. It's always connected to that feeling. And that's what I was searching for. And I didn't realize it at the time still, but I knew there was something in it. I'd move away. And I'd go on these holidays. Everyone around me is like, why do you go away by yourself? Why do you do these crazy missions? And this is why. I used to escape from that, and that was my peace. That was my connection, like with nature, with animals. You see my love of snakes, with reptiles and all that. This is where it all came from, and this is why it's so important to me in sharing my story and my journey about how I escaped from that, because that's where I started to move on. I was connecting with that feeling. I was in my own world. And I don't know if any of you guys out there can connect with that. What you do, you got your own time. What do? Do you go to that sporting game maybe with your friends or something? Do you go on a holiday? Do you go to that river or that lake and you just spend some time by yourself and you're actually there because it takes you back to a time when you used to have fun, maybe as a kid, maybe as a teenager or whatever it was. So it's just something to think about there, guys, as I move on. But that was the start of it. But I still couldn't work out how to, what would you say? I still had these beliefs in me. I was still angry. Yes, I might have moved away from my addictions. I might have moved away from certain things that weren't serving me, but I still had this anger. I still had this frustration with myself. I still had ridiculously low self-worth. And my solution at the time, and a lot of things happen at once. We talk about synchronicity. We talk about alignment, all these amazing fancy words. If you understand them, that's cool. I won't go deep into that now. I can if you throw me an inbox or something. But these things started happening. I started putting out. I'm like, all right, I want to change. I want to do this. So bang, I had an incident, we'll call it, where I was out one night and I lost it. I lost it. And without going into too much detail, I was so embarrassed by the situation, embarrassed my mum and dad. And to this day, it was a huge motivation for me. But again, a low time, motivated in pain. And I'll tell you now, it's not where you want to be, guys. And I'll get to why I'm putting my message out now. And a few of you guys that are on, when I touched on earlier, we've already spoken about this. And it's huge for what I want to bring to you guys later. It is actually massive. But move on there, I went away to work in the West. And that was huge for me too, because coming from a job where I had a standing, I had significance as a supervisor, that's where I was actually comfortable at my best. But away from that, I was just like, communication, talking to people. I was still this loud little angry man, and it didn't serve me, but I still didn't know what to do with it. So I went away and to the West, and that was tough for me at the time because, number one, I fought away from my addictions, the alcohol, the partying and that. And number two, I went into a job where I had no say. I had this environment's huge, but I had this environment around me where people were ego. There was a lot of anger. There was significance. Everyone's role in that, it was all about them and putting people down, and I couldn't handle it. 2 weeks in, I seen the environment, I worked out, I'm like, this is how I'm going to be in this environment. And the way I was going to be was I'm still going to be this person who I believed in my work and how I was, my standing in my job. I had to find a way to get into that standing and that supervisor's role. So what I did, I locked myself away from people. I didn't associate with anyone over there. I didn't join in their drinking sessions after work. And that was the start of me, yes, getting my way on a better direction, but also where it led into something which was a bad pattern for me. And what happened was, by doing this, I actually got a role, and I'll talk about awesome things happening. Like, this guy showed up, a mate of mine showed up, I got a new job, I stepped into a supervisor's role by putting it out there, and I was comfortable again in that role. Still angry and frustrated with life, with myself, but I went into this pattern of locking myself away from everyone. I'd work away for months at a time. Yes, I was making very, very good money. It made a huge difference at the time for me, but I didn't want to associate with the world. I didn't want to deal with my problems. I wanted to forget my problems. And that's the same again. I go into it, and that caused this implosion in me. And doing this for a few years, certain events happened. I lost a mate to suicide, which was tragic at the time, but that was a huge realization for me. That was the start of something for me to like, all right, there's something I've got to do differently here. I didn't know what it was still. I didn't know what it was. And I'm going to roll on 6 years. And I stayed in this pattern for 6 years. And I felt at the time I worked so hard away, and that's what I had to do. I worked and worked and worked. I've got to make my family proud of me again. I've got to make my friends have a look at me. I had the job of significance, so I was still a frustrated, angry person, but I was fucking good at what I did. And I kept telling myself this. And what happened was, I got to a point I'm like, there's got to be something else, because seriously, I'd pick up a drink bottle or something. If I tripped or something, I'd throw it. I'd lose my shit. I had this anger, this frustration, this low self-worth. I had no confidence away from there. If people were around me, I'd have my head down like this. I tell a story of where a lot of this changed, and I got Lee, my coach, sitting right over there, making me very uncomfortable, mind you. I wasn't going to mention that, but this is really important too, because talk about a lot of things happening. I went to an event, And I'd seen a lot of Lee's stuff on Facebook, on social media. A mate of mine was doing Team Beast Mode, and I was watching on, and I'm like, what is this all about? What is this? I resonated with his story. I seen it. But when I actually had the chance to meet him, he just got off stage, and I talk about being uncomfortable, low self-worth. I did this. So I went up to him, and I did not want to go near him. Don't laugh, man. We tell this story all the time now because it's so important. So I don't know if any of you guys out there have got low self-confidence on that, and you want to approach someone but you can't do it. You pull out at the last minute because you're like, oh no, I can't talk to that person. I'm not worthy to talk to them. They're up here. Lee just got off stage, and I'm like, holy shit, I don't want to talk to him. But I'd seen his story. I'm like, fucking, this is amazing. He's so much like me. He'd come from this dark past. Come from this pain and just got motivated to change his life, and not only change his life, better other people's life at the same time. And I'm like, I have to do this. And I went up and like shook his hand and all this. He reminds me of it all the time. It used to be embarrassing. I laugh at it now, and from that point on, I dived into what he had to say because I just seen his story. I connected with his story, and he's writing messages on me now. He's making this. But this is so important, guys. Like, you have certain things happen. You can pull out at the last minute. You can stop. I could have not went up and spoke to him. I could have not went to that event. I could have just stayed in my same cycle, stayed in that pattern, go back to work away, and not deal with this shit. But I was at the point I could not enjoy myself. And from that point on, whatever he had laid out before me, I followed it. And it is. Thanks for the shout out. I'm not shouting. I'm just there, man. And this is what it's about too, guys, having fun talking about this stuff. There's so much gold I'm giving you here right now. You got to take note of this because I never could have done this shit before. Never, ever. This is self-confidence and self-belief right here. And this is why I'm bringing this to you guys there. Like I say, you guys in the US, I've already been touching base with a lot of you guys and your friends. Even the guys that are on here now that have been working alongside of me. You've seen this transformation. It's because of this from this point on. As soon as you get an opportunity there, you grab it. As soon as you meet that person, you're like, there's something in this. You connect with their story, you connect with what they're doing, you grab that. And that's what I did. And it's like only not even a year on now, and this is where I'm at the point now. I've worked on myself. I've worked on my self-belief, my confidence. I've followed a process that works, guys. This works. And this is why I look at my story where I've come, and I've only touched on a little bit here, guys. I've only touched on a little bit. And how I used to go away. I used to connect with nature and what I've been able to do now to bring all these things together and actually find a purpose. And it's giving my message to the world. It's sharing my story with people to inspire them because I know it resonates with a lot of you guys on there now, but a lot of other people. And that's what it is in life. And when I was lost and I had no idea what I was doing, I was frustrated with myself. When I found things that I was good at and I was able to work on them, I was able to work away from all this shit from my past. And it's still there. It's not about forgetting it. It's still there. The emotion all these events was high. I lost my best mate when I was in my early 20s. That killed me. But I can talk about that with people now. I held on to that for so long. I lost my mate to suicide when I was over in the West, when I was really, I'll say flying at that time in certain areas, especially my work with my job, earning great money. That was huge for me to be able to work away from that by moving forward, not being stuck in all this emotion. Following that process, these steps, that, like I say, has worked for so many people for me, especially, like I say, my coach, my mentor, Lee. That's where I connected with it, his story, what he does now, his purpose, his vision. That's so similar to mine, and that's what you guys have got to find out there. I talk to so many of you out there, and you're like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I've got this, I've got that. And I talk about being in pain or in darkness and having these addictions and all this, and it's not for everyone. That's not what it's all about. It's about moving people away from that, yes, but it's also giving you steps to avoid that, because you don't have to go into that. You don't have to. If something goes wrong and you deal with it a certain way, be it with anger or frustration or going and drinking or partying too much and having that lack of confidence to actually make a different step. And this is what it's about for me, is bringing this to you guys, because it's worked for me. And it's... What word could I put on it? What word? See, I'll go silent here when I go down like this, because it really touches me here when I talk about it, because I'm just so happy and grateful to have even been sharing my story now. to be able to share it over and over. And that's what it's about for me, because being able to share my story, giving you the lessons I've learned, showing you how I've been able to come away from this stuff, to be able to have confidence to even talk about it, to be able to talk to people I don't even know. Like I say, talk to Lee on the same level. Even though he's my coach, he's got that standing there, but I've learned so much from him about how to be confident around others. Like, we had a successful businessman in here yesterday, and I tell you what, 6 months ago, I would have been, holy shit, I'm not going in there. And that's all about self-worth, guys. Self-belief, self-confidence. So if you are looking to build that confidence and you're not sure how, you're going around in circles, you've got no direction in life. And when I say no direction, you might have that cool job of earning money. You might have that cool relationship, but you might be unhealthy, you might be unfit, and you're like, well, what do I do about it? I haven't got confidence to go to a gym. There's ways to deal with this, guys. There's better ways to deal with this instead of going into your shell and hiding away. Maybe it is in that job you don't like. You're frustrated, your boss shits you. Who wants a boss anyway? J-O-B, journey of bankruptcy. I was stuck in that for freaking 37 years. And do you know what it feels like now to not have to answer to anyone but Lee? I'm making him laugh now. See? Confidence. It's huge. Thanks, Andy. I appreciate it, man. I know you'd love this. But don't you want to move away from that? Don't you want to move away from that place where you're like, what else is there? Maybe you're not having fun. Maybe you're not enjoying yourself doing the things you love. Maybe you've forgotten about the things you love. So many people I talk to now, and they've got all these other things in place. I'm like, well, what do you love doing? They don't know their purpose. I'm like, well, what do you enjoy? And they're like, well, what do you mean? A lot of them, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she's like, I love helping other people. And I'm like, yeah, cool. That's for the other people. Yes, you get, what would you say, a little bit of fulfillment out of that, but what do you do for fun? And she couldn't even tell me. This is good for you too, White Knight. This is perfect for you to listen to, man. But when you can highlight that for someone, when you can fill in that gap for someone, and when it's something like their passions, when you've got that missing link, this is what I'm good at. I'm the observer. I fill that I bridge that gap. And this is what it's about for me, being able to be that onlooker and see that and share it with you guys. Find that purpose, find that direction. And this is why I'm excited. And this is just going to be a 5-minute live feed, guys, but there's just so much here, so much value I can add to you guys. And it's just a lead in for me. This is a lead into a webinar. This is a lead into something that's even bigger. This is something that I'm so excited about that I could just keep talking all day. And seriously, I'm just so happy and grateful to have all you guys on here. But here it is. Here's the thing. If you want to find that purpose, if you want direction, if you want that exit strategy from that job where that boss is just doing your head in and you know you're worth more, but you don't know how to build that self-worth, you haven't got that confidence to approach that girl, that person. You haven't got the confidence to go and speak out in public, no matter what it is we want to do. If you're in that new job and you've got to do things differently, you've got to get outside that comfort zone, but you don't know how, there is a process to follow, guys, that has worked for me. It has worked for so many before me. It's working for people I'm working with now. So if you want that missing link, if you want to fill that gap, if you want that bridge, what I want from you is now, I want you to inbox me. I only work with people whose energy matches me. I only want to help people who want to help themselves. This is the way I can create a ripple effect. This is how I am going to make a bigger impact. Because the more people I can help, the more people that want to make an impact themselves, the more people that want to build that self-confidence, that want to help others, that's what it's about for me. That's my purpose. So inbox me. Why would you want to work with me? Inbox me all your problems if you want. Give me a list, everything you're missing. This is super important, guys. I want you guys to change your life because this has all worked for me. This is my better way. There are so many better ways to do this than going around in circles. There are so many better ways in dealing with situations like you have in the past. You wonder why you get frustrated? That's why. You do what you've always done, you get what you've always got. And it's fucking simple. I'm Steve Mack. Inbox me. I'll get to your questions via message if you want. They've got to be real questions. They've got to be questions asking me how I can help you to move you forward. Because if I'm not moving you forward, it's not for you. Thank you. I'm Steve Mack. See you later.